Moore.
Here.
Alderman French. Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderman Carter.
Present.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Here.
Alderman Ogilvy. Chairman Conway.
Present.
6 present, we have a quorum.
These were sent out to everybody by email, but they all came out hard.
Good morning, Mr. Clerk,
Morning.
members of the committee.
This from yesterday?
Yeah, these were the answers. I sent them.
We're going to do Parks, Recreation, and Forestry this morning.
And these are the answers
I can't
to
s-
yesterday's questions.
Okay, and that's good. We have a couple of other things we can handle for a second. Let's see, Vice Chairman Vaccaro has passed out the responses to the questions from yesterday.
Darlene, I'm still waiting for the president of the Board of Aldermen and Darlene Green's office to give us who all we insure, but these are the answers that came in.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vaccaro. The other thing is, we can ask that, what time will the Recorder of Deeds be available?
I told her to come up around 9:30, and she just has to wait until we have time.
That'll be fine. Okay. Can someone let Mr. Hayes know we're ready? There he is. This morning, we're going to start with Parks, Recreation, and Forestry. Congratulations on your new job.
Thank you, Chairman.
And what I would like you to do, and then for everybody here, what we'll do is, you know, you have the different divisions there. Introduce everybody that is with you today, and you can give your overview, but I'd like to cover all of the divisions' presentation at one time, and then we'll ask questions of the various division heads or commissioners that you have with you today. Mr. Hayes?
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. Representing Parks, Recreation, and Forestry here today. It's a privilege to be standing in front of you, and we're proud to discuss some of the services we perform, and we're always open to suggestions of how we can do things better. I'd like to introduce some folks, if they would stand when I call their name. We have at least one new person. Alicia Stellhorn, Playtime Rec. Kathy Sullivan, Soulard Market. Dan Skillman, Park Commissioner. As of April 6th of 2015, Skip Kincaid, the new Forestry Commissioner. He succeeded myself. And Evelyn Rice Peebles, Recreation Commissioner. These are the folks that get things done on a daily basis. Okay. Essentially what we're talking about going into FY16 is the same services to be provided as in the current fiscal year 15. We're essentially in 1010 budget, we're about a $20 million operation. And then if you add Brightside, Playtime Rec, and Soulard Market, gets us up to about 21 million. The director's budget, the notation here is, as you'll see, going along the agenda, it's essentially about an $86,000 increase. That is not necessarily an increase, it's simply a transfer of a program specialist from the refuse division and $45,000 to fund 2 per performance people to do recycling education. So it's not an increase to our budget. It is an increase to our budget, but it's simply a decrease to refuse. We discussed this with some folks, and we thought, what better place to discuss recycling and related programs than Operation Brightside. So they will work with Operation Brightside, but they're in the director's budget. So that essentially is the director's budget. Going on to parks, and that's about a $680,000 section budget. Going on to parks, there's one change. We have eliminated the full-time park ranger position that is in the current position, so that position will no longer be there July 1 of 15. It's about $30,000. That position was kept in the current budget, which we felt was very important for transition to local control. And now that the park rangers are all under the purview of the St. Louis Police Department, we felt there's no longer a need for that position. Those monies will be put to great use in per-performance park grass cutting, which I think everybody in the room would concur is a very important use of funds. So essentially, Dan's budget is about 8.8 million, same services that we're performing now. Going on to recreation, we're about a $1.4 million budget. Our summer programs start June 8th. Evelyn and Alicia likely have brochures, and we're very excited at kicking off our summer programs. If there's any specificity requested with those programs, they can highlight any of those issues and answer your questions. So business as usual in recreation, and we're very pleased to say that. Going on to forestry, I obviously have an intimate knowledge of this, but Skip, even though he's new, if he can't answer a question, I certainly will make my best effort. We remain at 106 permanent employees. There's no losses. And if you add the 5, which is Forest Park Arboricultural Crew, also known as FPAC, that funded by Forest Park Forever, that takes us to 111 employees. Business as usual in forestry. The key thing here is we have the same amount of 1.2 million, if you will, in per performance 5112 money to cut grass. And then Alicia, at her playtime rec budget, it's not listed here, but essentially she's just set funds of $1 million. Soulard makes money now, and Operation Brightside is about a $300,000 operation. Those are the highlights of our budget. Like I said, same services as existing. We're very pleased about that, and we're very pleased with this budget.
All right, and then the playtime rack, how is that funded?
It's $600,000 out of the 8-cent sales tax and $400,000 from the BJC agreement. So about, not about, $1 million operation. Those are set funds that don't involve any 10-10 budget discussions.
Right, and then what do we provide with that money?
We can provide a brochure. Alicia, you want to discuss a few of the programs? She has a vast array of programs that start here soon for 8 to 9 weeks.
Good morning, come on up.
Oh, thanks. The programs we offer, we run the Cherokee Recreation Center 12 months a year. We also offer the adult basketball program, which we partner with the police department, which is 3 sessions a year in 8-week sessions. We get 150 young men into these programs. They're mentored by St. Louis police officers in uniform while they're playing. And they also have to attend life skills classes in order to be a part of that program. In addition, we run a 9-week summer camp at the Cherokee Center. We start on June 1st, and we run through August 7th. And we partner, we put out an RFP for services for things like soccer camp, basketball camp, theater, arts, swimming, golf, tennis, fishing, all kinds of different arts. We have 52 different offerings, and those will also run 9 weeks over the summer. We register about 2,000 kids in the summer for those programs.
Tandy basketball, would you?
That's the adult basketball program.
Adult basketball,
Yeah.
widely popular in all the Morris Ward and Tandy.
Yeah, we'll be starting that on June 8th, and it'll be an 8-week program. That's the adult basketball program. We run that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings.
Okay, no, I appreciate it, I just wasn't certain what that was.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, yes, you can get a copy of the brochure. Alderman Kennedy, do you want me to come back to you in a minute?
I would appreciate it, thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Moore, I saw you. Good morning. Questions?
Yes, sir. Plenty. I want to know, basically, you know, my theory is about them weeds in that area where 1,700 lots, 1,242 vacant buildings, and this is my whole tenure as an alderman. That's all I go through. I don't have the opportunity to write any legislation because of what go on in my community. I want to know how we can solve the problem that I have. Now, you just cut the lots the other day, and I commend Skip. He's a good guy. We had a little TV series, and I rode around with Skip, but I'd already done my little video before before me and Skip took a ride. and you rode in my neighborhood a lot before you became Gary Best. So,
I don't know if that's true that I became him, but I am here in his presence, yes, in his
not the
stead.
same size, but you're all right.
Right.
But anyway, I'd like to know how we can solve that problem, because you just cut the lots, and when you cut the lots, they didn't cut the curves. They didn't cut the vacant buildings. So now they're coming back cutting the curves, and the lots are coming back up. I know the rain, but I have 1,700 vacant lots, and I'd like to see, instead of the tractors going down the street in a parade like they do pretty regular down Martin Luther King, for the life of me, I can't understand why 6 or 7 tractors are parading behind one another in the middle of the day, saying that they started at 6 and they getting off at 2:30 or whatever, going somewhere, I don't know where they're going, but I need those tractors to surge. I would like to get them all at one time, do the vacant lots, do the curbs, and do the vacant building, and let us look clean at one time, because when you got 7 foot tall, I can't see the stop signs. And if you like to take a ride, you know me and you take a lot of tours. I took Skip on the tour already, but I can't see my stop signs, and it is unacceptable living that many lots. I know we have a lot of them, but get all the tractors from all the wards and bring them over, cut the vacant buildings, cut the curbs, and cut the lots at one time so we can be able to see the forest for the tree. It is horrific in there.
Right, well, I'll address those points, Alderman. We've had these discussions, we've taken countless visits, we've troubleshot any areas that you think are safety issues where the grass has gotten high.
Ward.
I always say, we know the grass is getting high again. We can't spend 24 weeks of a 24-week season in the 4th Ward. We're on a rotation basis. I've looked at it till I'm blue in the face. I don't know, other than adding folks, I don't know another way to do it than do it in a fair way where we're in your ward for weeks and weeks. Some wards, due to the lack of vacant property volume, we're in there maybe a day or two and we're gone. So we pretty much live in your ward when we're in there, and we do have all the tractors in there at once. Now, if you
How
see
many
it,
tractors we own?
we have about 36 tractors, maybe 35. When they're all running, we have 36. So that's what we're doing. A lot of times they're old tractors, but we're not excuse makers. We'd like to have at least 25 to 26 in full operation at all time. You mentioned the curbs, your stop signs, and what I call dislocated areas or fringe areas. We have trim crews at the request of the alderman years ago, thankfully. We'd be pulling people from vacant buildings to go over and do the curbs. So you're pulling away from services. We have dedicated crews. Now, they are not able to keep up with a tractor operator running 25 to 30 lots in a day, but they're there pretty quickly to do the curbs, blow the sidewalks, blow the parking lanes, and get them back. We're not there to manicure. We're not there to be a golf course superintendent. We're there to take it out of violation. So we know they get high. My pet peeve is if you call me and say, we cut 10 properties, why is this 11th 6 feet high or 3 feet high? Those are the problems I address. But other than a rotation basis and staying in your ward till we're complete to go to the next, it's a resource issue. So that's the best we can do, and I can do the math all day long.
Well, then Fourth Ward should opt out of giving any money to forestry or anybody, because we're not asking you to golf courses. We're asking you to give us a decent cut. You know, you got the curb crews and the trim crews, and I see them operating in other areas, but they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing in my area, and I don't understand. You know, that even with the tractors, somebody maybe they need to be closely supervised, because it's not happening.
Well,
It's just not happening. It's pitiful, and it's not happening in the Fourth Ward. I started this morning to take pictures and bring you pictures this morning so you can see what your guys have done. They've already cut, but it looks like it's never been cut. And all of it is not because of the rain, it's because of neglect. The guys don't do the grass, they cut bags of trash and scatter it everywhere. Then those 7 foot tall weeds tumble, they turn brown, it's an ugly eyesight. And then it tumbleweeds down to the person that's trying to live decent. The vacant building, we got people with their lawns manicured, and then we got 7-foot tall grass next door to the people's house.
Right.
It's just not fair.
Well, like I've said before, we've taken rides. If you see shoddy performance by our crews, you need to let Skip Kincaid know, and he'll let me, and you can call me. We've had numerous conversations. To be quite candid, I'm not hearing these same complaints citywide about neglect and our guys just out driving around joyriding. I'm just not hearing it. I think part of it, you have
These are
so
my
much.
colleagues, and they have their wards, and each ward is different.
Sure, I
And I'm
agree.
not, and because they're my colleagues, I can truly say that I am prejudiced but for the 4th ward. I don't care what go on in their ward. They have their own problems, but I have a problem that need to be solved in my ward, and my whole tenure as an alderman is based on grass, lots, and empty buildings, and I need some help. So we need to sit down and figure out how to get some help. We need to be surged, just like George Bush did one great thing in the Iraq War. He surged the enemy, put a lot of people in, and did a job.
Right.
I don't know what they got going on if they see tractors. I'm out there every day. That's all I do is politics in my ward, and I see those tractors. I see those guys sleeping in areas, resting in the wrong places, doing all kind of stuff. Instead of getting off them tractors, cutting that grass the right way, set the bush hog or whatever you call that thing down and cut a spot and then leave a patch here and leave a patch there, and the guys never come back. They forget. They're human. They forget. So I don't need no golf course. I just need a decent cut. One time in 12 years, if I can get one decent cut everything at one time, you won't hear me anymore.
Well, let's see what we can do, because we don't want to discuss the same issues and have you frustrated. I commend you being in what you do in your ward. I wish we didn't throw the trash all over. Our guys don't throw trash and car batteries and all that around. And we also don't want to be cutting these are people's property they need to be cutting. We're punitive by design. That's why we cost money for us to be there. So hopefully a lot of these private, which is probably 60% of all the vacancies in any ward, you wish the private people would cut their own property, but it's not our job to do, but we're there to do
I'm gonna
it.
stop before the chairman stop me, and then me and him will get into it.
No,
because this is a never-ending thing for me and my ward, so.
Well, we take
That's all
it-
I have, Mr. Chairman.
We take it seriously, Alderman. Thank you.
And we are putting the liens on the privately owned property for the cut charges.
We bill, including LRA, to document our services, we bill over $3 million a year.
All right.
Do we collect $3 million? No. But,
Well, but,
hey, at least it's on there when they want to sell their home and somebody can pay for it.
right, or
Or
we
it
can
goes to LRA.
foreclose on those liens too.
Correct. Matt Moak, we work very closely with Matt Moak, and he's had great success of getting money that was never seen before.
And I know, in the 8th Ward, it has allowed us to move vacant properties into hands where they're going to work it by threatening to foreclose. Alderman French.
Thank you.
Alderman Kennedy, are we up? I'm fine right now. Are you ready, or you want to wait?
Give me a few more moments. And
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman French.
Realizing that park rangers aren't under you guys anymore, how many park rangers do we have, and where are they stationed?
I believe there's 27, Dan? There's 27 park rangers under the purview of St. Louis Police Department. We don't call the shots on where they are. Dan, do you have any more specific information of their protocols?
7 of them are on fixed sites, 7 recreation centers, so there's a park ranger station at each of the recreation centers. Remainder of those are split up onto 3 shifts, so they run 3 8-hour shifts. They work 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So those other remaining 20 are split up onto those 3 shifts. Some are fixed posts, some are actually out roving, patrolling. We don't have a park ranger that hits every park. We have a park ranger roving through a particular area on each of the 2 shifts, the morning shift and the afternoon shift. Nighttime, we're running alarm calls.
How many park rangers are assigned to Forest Park?
There are probably 3.
Right.
3 per shift. So every time I ask this question, I get a very complicated answer involving shifts, and I just want to know how many of these 27, and it says 28 guys, when they go to work every day, how many of them go to work in Forest Park?
3 on a shift.
Right, but there's 3, how many shifts per day?
Right.
Or are we saying 9?
Yeah, 8-hour shifts.
Okay.
But, I mean, perhaps the chief would have I think that's
I'm
pretty
gonna ask them
accurate,
the same
though.
thing, and I never get a clear answer.
I understand. But
Let's go to their budget here. First, page by page, Forest Park Fund.
What page are you on and what
I'm on
account?
page 80. Forest Park Fund and Forest Park Maintenance. So how much does Forest Park get? By looking at this and also the operating plan, it looks like from the Forest Park Improvement Fund, there's about $2,060,000.
that's correct. That's Roger Berry's group with maintaining the park. You page 80.
This is 1116 and 11, yeah, both 1116, Fund 1116.
Page 80.
There's the other page at 80 and what?
80 and 81.
Different book, what book are you in?
I'm in the line item book, line item detail book. The Forest Park Fund, Fund 1116. We got one here for $1,450,000, another one for $610,000.
That service number.
The 1.4 are Forest Park revenues that go back to pay debt service, and it goes back into the park.
So is this related to the bond issue we did where we basically gave them the money up front and now the sales tax goes toward paying off
Right.
what we borrowed?
All park revenues.
This is the $30 million bonds that were purchased specifically for Forest Park. Those are repaid out of resources of funds. One is our revenues that we generate in Forest Park, absent sales tax money that voters passed tonight, and it's the Metro Parks money that 110. All goes to Forest Park as bond payment, $30 million. They're raising those monies privately, $30 million, so the money that we're paying them as a bond payment stays for
Okay, so they got 30,
paying for additional maintenance.
okay, with the 30 million that are we fronted them. Okay, and then so are there any other funds that go to Forest Park?
There's the Fund 1122, which is the
Half cent.
EJC money, the EJC, the city trust. Funds 1122 actually funds the crew that actually maintains Forest Park.
That's $2 million operation.
$2 million we receive every year from
Now, where is that here? I'm looking there, 11 fund, what now?
1122,
So
should say Warren City Trust.
I see 11, on page 83, I see 1122, 8-cent sales tax fund. Then the next page, I see 1122 Parks and Rec Center programs, then Neighborhood Park Fund.
Page, Mr. Bass, what page is that on?
99.
What? But,
The 99, Dan.
99?
okay.
Okay, Barnes City Trust. So all this goes to Forest Park?
Yes. It is, we used to fund Forest Park out of 1010, to the tune of $1.6 million. That was replaced in 2007, I believe. Lease, renegotiated the lease, the property where the underground garage is, and EJC now pays us $2 million a year for that lease. We turn dollars to fund the maintenance part. The 1.6 that was coming out of 1010 now comes back to the city.
Okay, and so we were also told yesterday about, I think it's $600,000 related to electricity and public utilities there. there was an agreement where they were paying that, and this year it's back on us to pay it?
Right. What happened is, out of that money, we pay back to Forest Park forever for the bond. 600,000 of that went to pay utility costs for Forest Park for a period of 5 years. And then there's an additional 600,000 that goes to help with operations in the park.
And where does that 600,000 come from?
Comes out of the revenues. So it's the money we pay back. In the bond payment, we make the Forest Park forever. And Forest Park forever reimburses the city for those expenditures.
So does that come out of the Fund 1116?
Correct.
So that comes out of the 2,060,000. Is that a line item here,
The line item under 1116, I believe, it's in the 210 budget.
or? I see budgeted for 2015, 300,000 for utilities electric and 300,000 for utilities natural gas, but nothing in the budget for 16.
Right, correct. In 16, we are no longer, the utility costs are no longer coming out of that account. We're taking those utility costs up.
So that's what I'm asking. So where is that, so we're paying the 600,000 this year,
Beginning this year,
and that comes out of where?
I
We,
can't tell you.
General revenue?
we were advised by the budget division that the city's picking up the tab, so the
Is that coming out of general
600,000
revenue?
utility payments, Lepete Gas and Ameren, I'm gonna put you on the spot, Ed, but 600,000 is not coming out of us anymore, so to speak, us.
No longer coming out of Forest Park.
Where's it coming out of? Facilities management?
That's,
Which
Okay.
used
Which
to
is
be,
where it
we can
used to
get
come
you that
from.
answer, it used to be facilities management many years ago, they
Okay.
paid for it.
Okay. All right, so we'll get that answer. So far I got 2 million for the 30 million we gave them, so we got 2 million for debt service, then 2.5 million coming out of 1122, plus 600,000 for utilities. Anything else?
That I can think of.
Okay. That's a lot. All right, keep going through. The next one is Lafayette Square Park Fund. Now, this looks new. Fund 11, this is on page 82. It wasn't in the FY 13, 14, 15, or 16 budget, but now it's in the, it says it wasn't even requested.
I'm sorry, Alderman. They have a new boathouse that was constructed there, and it's going to be used for weddings. And essentially, the revenues are going to be coming from the new boathouse, which weren't seen before this fiscal year. Is that correct?
revenues, the Board of Aldermen passed an ordinance that allowed any revenue generated in Lafayette Park to be captured back into Lafayette Park for capital investment back into the park.
Okay.
We did not appropriate any money last year. We did collect revenue, but we did not appropriate any of that money last year. Park did not appropriate any money this year. Made improvements in Lafayette Park.
And it's the first year our division or our department will be permitting that park for these weddings this year.
All right,
Good thing to go back into the park.
the 8 cents sales tax fund, this is what goes to major parks?
What page, Alderman?
At the next page, 83.
I think that
It's 3.2 million.
600,000, is that the $600,000 budget?
This is almost 3 million.
The debt service and extraordinary items.
Mm-hmm. So is this for the other bonds?
That is for the $25.2 million bond.
They went to the
Part
other,
of the bond payment, yes.
okay. Okay. And director don't need that. Neighborhood Park Fund, 1.2 million. Is there anywhere that shows the breakdown of how that's being distributed?
1.2 goes back into the bond payment.
For the Neighborhood Park Fund? So this goes back into the bond payment? So it's not listed as debt service. It says contractual and other services subsidy. Yeah.
That's a subsidy for the Old Town Park Complex.
Rec complex.
Used to be 700,000, went up 500,000. Cover costs.
So was that under negotiation that went up 500,000? Because there wasn't a line here for 13 or 14. Is that in? Okay. Neighborhood Park Fund, so this is the one that is distributed to smaller parks. 1.6 million. Now, is there a breakdown for that?
About 400,000 of that goes to playtime rec. And the other 1.2 goes to debt service on the 20.
Major projects, neighborhood parks improvement, that's the 1.2 that goes to debt service? Okay. Next page, under page 87, under director budget here, we got two positions here, recreation leader and recreation assistant. Neither one of them look occupied, but there's 55,000 reserved for recreation leader and 167,000 for recreation assistant.
Evelyn, 1122, rec leader, rec assistant, page 87. Would that be great? Huh?
Excuse me.
Are those unfilled positions at this time?
Those are,
They were nice.
you're looking in the 5.
What page are you on, Alderman?
Page 87, under
Page 87 at the
5112.
bottom.
The 5112, those are all per performance. Those are seasonal people, they work in after-school programs, and we staff up in the summer for our summer camps.
Yeah, there's not a body or name attached to them. It's just like a forestry seasonal pool of grass money.
Okay.
Just a pot of money.
All right. Operation Brightside, 300,000, that's all for salaries mostly?
Yes.
All except 15,000, it's just salaries?
Correct.
Do they have any other funds they tap into for projects, or is it all salaries?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Utility workers, under forestry, that's 121. It says unfilled, is that also seasonal employees?
Are you on page 91?
94,
Okay.
per performance.
Utility workers, oh, what those are there, those are funds for our tree planters, which are 9 laborers hired in October or November and plant till March. So
Okay.
that has nothing to do with grass cutting. Those are St. Louis Works monies that pay for those folks, and that money rolls.
Okay. Page 98, looks like it's some more Forest Park money. It says Forest Park Maintenance Fund, 126,000. Per performance employees, regular employees. Where's that come from?
That is, again, that's money that is part of the bond payment we're paying to Forest Park Forever, putting that back into the park. They are now hiring, beginning this year, they're gonna hire some additional personnel to be supervised by the Parks Department, but it's coming out of there.
You can pay for people out of bond money?
No, it's not bond money, it's the bond payment we're making to Forest Park Forever. They're taking that $3 million and they're putting it back into the park for increased payments.
Okay.
So we're using portions to hire additional staff.
Get down to your final questions. And 12 minutes, everybody else needs a turn.
All right. I'm being told that my time is almost up. So let me ask about the Tower Grove Park Fund there. That's 715. Where is the breakdown of how much all the large parks are getting this year? Do you have a handout with that?
Out of the sales tax money or out of any money,
Yeah.
we can get that for you.
We can get
Is
you
that
any,
in the book anywhere?
It's in the capital.
I remember in the past, I thought that there was, it may be even in the operating plan, there was each park, major park, and how much they were getting from,
Yeah, the capital budget, each part staffs is broken out.
capital budget. Okay, I'll look at that.
And the capital budget, our road is also, our road, in the general fund budget is just something.
So is it in this one, the capital improvement? All right, I'll look at it.
all those All those funds were just sent all those fund balances by ward were sent to us within the last week. So everybody should have gotten a copy.
Okay.
By ward, part of what, we have these meetings in February, March on with each alderman, and also what Dan sends his letter to his suggestions of park improvements and the costs and weighing in from aldermen.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman French.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Actually, my only question is to the committee. Because I'm writing different things I think that you're saying you want, but if you can make sure to pose it as if you really want me to send out and get it.
Check with the committee member after the meeting.
Okay,
Otherwise, when it's this type of information or a handout.
yeah, that's what I just wanted to make sure they'd be specific. I have no questions.
Alderman Carter.
Yes. Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you, Alderman?
Great. Last year, you told us that what we were funding you at, that you will be able to give us, I guess, a C grade in terms of the vacant building cuttings, right? So that's about the same this year?
Might have been Gary's comment, but I would say that holds true.
Okay, Gary, I'm sorry, Gary. Okay. So what do we need to get you to A?
I can put a figure to it. Well, here's what we do now, and I'll answer that question in this manner. We do 7 rotations typically on lots, and we do about 3 on buildings. That's about every 8 to 10 weeks on buildings, and pretty much every 3 to 4 weeks on lots. If you're asking me what I could do with X amount of funds, I could put a pencil to it, and we could make great use of a couple $100,000 extra if we could to get us through April through June. So, like I said, we're pleased with this, but it's a tough question. I can put a rotation number to any amount of funds.
But let me just ask what that rotation number means. So when you say 8 to 10 weeks and I have a vacant building, you only cut it once every 9 weeks.
That's right. So, I mean, we use a couple of...
Number's only, you know,
It's 12. It's basically 24 weeks, 12 pay periods.
Yeah.
That's our resource capability right now.
Right.
An average pay for one pay period just to do grass cutting, regardless of rotations, is about $100,000.
Okay.
Yep. We have 12 pays. That puts us at the 1.2 million
All right.
we're doing now. But what our albatross is our buildings. We may get some disagreement in the room. I don't feel our lots are the problem. They're not beautiful. But any funds we've always sought in the past, if it's available, are for our vacant buildings because they're a real problem.
All right. Now, is there an issue with, let's say if I live next door to a vacant property, a vacant LRA-owned property, and I cut the property, and I cut the grass, is there any legal issues or something like that? Because I had it set up in my ward where a few block units, they were taking care of the vacant properties on their block, and then they were told to stop cutting it because there was some legal.
I'm not an attorney, but I've been asked that question before, and I'm unaware of any legal problem with that. Matter of fact, if you have folks in the 27th Ward doing that, I commend them.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
I
I do
don't
too.
think, you're not going to get a complaint from forestry, and I have no idea why that would be a legal issue with LRA.
Okay.
Maybe if somebody got hurt, an attorney would answer that question. But we have folks that care enough that do cut their properties next door that are vacant.
Yeah, yeah. Now, we used to spray fence lines, correct? I think years ago.
We've found that, yes, we spray easements, like a chronically bad area. We spray the rear of LRA buildings. We don't spray anything in the front. We've got a lot of opposition. We don't want to spray the front and burn it up and make it look bad. But we do spray the rear. Quite frankly, it's not a very effective program. Our most effectiveness is to be cutting grass.
Right.
Chemical control works, but some of these weeds for 20 years are almost immune to our Roundup mixture at this point, as you can imagine.
Right.
And with people not maintaining them, you'll see some forests behind people's homes, and that's difficult to cut on a normal vacant building rotation with 2 people and 2 string trimmers.
Right.
But I can get you what we can do if you're interested in that in terms
Yeah.
of increasing the frequency of our rotations.
Okay. What are the duties of Operation Brightside?
They do all kinds of volunteer efforts in the community with gardening, get back to nature programs. They provide no power tools, but they provide small tools. If you have an aggressive and dedicated neighborhood group, they'll be happy to loan them the tools. They do about 4,500 graffiti removal services a year.
That's their main purpose
Yes.
is graffiti removal. right?
Yes, and those are on buildings, even privately owned, after an 8-day notice. They have a legal right per the ordinance to go remove that graffiti. Anything that you see tagged, if you will, in the park is handled by our park department graffiti removal crew. So Brightside does some terrific things with a pretty small budget.
All right. With the rec centers, what are they currently funded at, and do they need more funding to be ran more efficient?
I would say the rec centers are old buildings. We're a $1.4 million operation. If we benchmark that nationwide, I'm sure it pales in comparison to other rec facilities in cities. All our rec centers could use some upgrades, obviously. And what do you have? We have 20 permanent staff in our recreation division for this size city. So all of them could use help. All 7 of them could use structural help.
Is there a plan coming forth in the next few years to make those structural changes, or no?
Not to my knowledge. It requires funding, obviously.
Right.
And part of, if I may add, why we deliver the services that we do is we have a wonderful contingency of volunteers. Our sites has dedicated volunteers that, most of them have been with us 5, 6, 7, 8 years. That really allows us to do a quality job, though the facilities aren't necessarily beautiful to look. We deliver a quality service. The young people are safe. The elderly are safe. People like to come. We're doing registration. We closed registration for World Summer Camp. Waiting list already. We are competitive with the YMCA and other camps that cost anywhere from $85 to $200 a week. We charge nothing. We take field trips. We do everything. We swim, we have fun, we talk, we have little mock elections, we elect mayors for the summer camp. So yes, if there were more money, there are new opportunities. We're pleased with this budget.
Okay.
Alderman, if anybody would walk into our 2 highest usage centers, which would be Wool and 12th and Park, let's say you walk in there in mid-June, I think you'd be very pleased with the number of kids and elderly folks in there. But you'd also look around the building and say, wow, we could use some improvement.
Yeah. I visit Woles frequently. Often. And yeah, I've seen the need, and that's why I asked. So.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
Alderman Murphy.
No questions.
Alderman Ogilvie.
Thanks. For a few questions and comments, I just want to say, on a personal level, we always get great response from the folks here today. Appreciate that. Everybody I know works hard and does their best when we have an issue to address it. We've got a $26 million bond issue on all the parks that we're spending money on now. Nobody in the community has any idea what that money is being spent on. And I think it's an enormous missed opportunity to inform people about the investments that are being made. There is literally no place to find that information. It does not exist in the public realm. I know that's kind of a shared responsibility between the Parks Department and BPS, but so my question is, when are we going to be able to communicate what projects are being built with that bond money?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think we've made inroads within the last 30 to 45 days. We've been in touch with some folks in the mayor's office. Maggie Crane has requested that. She was ahead of the game. Dan has provided information on where things are in the design and construction stage, basically a capital projects update, and we're working on that already. I'm pretty sure we're at the stage right now where we're putting some information on where we are by each park by ward and where those, now that's a moving target, obviously, with design and construction, but we're aware of those issues and we're starting to make some inroads. Would that be accurate, Dan? And BPS, obviously, I'm not going to punt to BPS, but they're the nucleus, if you will, on working with them on design, construction, where we are on each, and we meet with them monthly, weekly and monthly. But we can certainly let you know and shoot you that information of where we are at this time.
I thought the question was, do we have a list of all of the projects?
We do.
Okay.
But whether it's online on the internet fully at this moment, I'll find that out. But we've provided information.
I mean, it's not online. I mean, I know for a fact it's not. And other communities are really highlighting the work they're doing. And I think we have the same opportunity to do that, especially right now, and it's kind of passing us by at the moment. And so on a related note, and I'm going to try to phrase this as a question. To explain how we might be able to get, I think, more a ranking of priorities for investment within all the parks. Because right now what we have is sort of an annual shotgun approach to doing something over here, over there, and the Board of Aldermen controls some of that investment. But I think many of us would welcome a more guided approach to how we're making annual investments, and maybe some planning, especially for rec centers, to say stuff is wearing out, we have major expenses coming up, and we're not planning or budgeting for them. And I think the pool at Marquette highlights that issue to some extent. But how can we get a more guided approach to where we need to be spending money?
Well, I think we just keep communicating with you and getting your opinions. We have folks on internal staff, albeit limited, that look at the parks, they look at the rec centers, they do punch lists of the most priority, the higher priority issues, and we think we communicate those annually with you. Beyond that, I don't know what we could do more with a heightened priority list than what we do already, other than, everything involved. It sounds like a cop-out to say, well, we don't have the money. That's not an excuse, but we present these, we have a general idea, actually a pretty specific idea at each. I think maybe we lack at the rec centers, Alderman Ogilvie, on a design plan there, because we just haven't had funds. But in the parks, I thought we were doing a decent job of it. But more communication with you, with your constituents, with what they present to you as needs, may be different than ours, maybe the same on those priority lists. But I've seen the lists pretty specifically broken down by park. But that's the best way I can answer that.
Okay.
Mr. Best, that list is probably in the capital book.
The 2004 bond issue, the 2004 capital bonds for parks, the $30 million and $6 million, listed at the end, Highland Park, by project, in last
Wait.
year's.
Did you say 2004 or 2014?
2014.
Okay. I just,
Are listed in last year's capital book and his own line.
Yeah, so I agree. There is a list, and there's a bunch of words and numbers attached to it. But my point is that it's $26 million, and other community that's not a sales pitch to the community to say, here are the quality ways in which we're investing your tax money. There's a much more I think, proactive approach that I've seen other communities take to this, not burying it at the end of a PDF somewhere, but putting it out front and center to say, here are the improvements coming to your parks. And I really hope we get there this summer.
We can have an internal discussion on it. It sounds like there's a need for improved communication, improved planning, and we can discuss that and get back to you on that if it's not meeting the standards of communication right now that you'd like
But we're
to see.
saying sell yourself, promote yourself, promote what you're doing for the city and for the residents who use the park.
Agree. Two more quick questions. Boxing. I honestly don't know that much about our boxing program. I know obviously there's kind of a long history with boxing in St. Louis. There are certainly other similar activities to boxing, wrestling, other martial arts that maybe are a little less dangerous for kids to participate in. Have we thought about, and maybe also like wrestling, for instance, if you're a great wrestler, you can go to college on that. There are no college scholarships for boxing. So are we looking at maybe shifting focus from boxing at any point, or are we just going to stick with that and not look at other?
Between Alicia and I, if I may,
Go for it.
between Alicia and I, we offer a variety of sports. Boxing does appear fundamentally violent, I understand that. It was something that I had to
Fundamentally.
Amateur boxing is very, very, very different from professional, with the face guards, different gloves, and with a committed coach. For the most part, it is very, very, very rare for a young person to be hurt in boxing. You've heard the expression, "go in the towel." That's what a good amateur coach does. If his boxer looks like he's getting hurt, that match is over. Being respectful of the committee's time, the times that we live in are such, there are a lot of young people with a lot of issues that in the past only adults had to face. There's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of anger. I don't have to go over all that. If you have two angry people, the best place for them to be is in a boxing ring with committed adults, with the proper equipment to deal with the aggression that they need to deal with. St. Louis is known for its boxing program. And while you can't get a boxing scholarship to college, you can go to Junior Olympics and other places where you get noticed, people invest in you. Boxing is one of the programs. It's number one. I think football is number two. Absolutely no alcohol, no drugs, no soda, no candy bars, no potato chips. They're some of the healthiest athletes in our system. The workouts they have to do, the routine to be in shape to box, creates a mindset that says you can't do all these other things. Boxing coaches help with homework, they do mentoring, they buy shoes, they pay utility bills. Kenny Lord, who passed recently, once paid 30 sets of utility bills. So what it's really doing, boxing like other sports, is a way of creating a relationship for young people to see a way out. And as long as the entertainment industry and others create an image that children aspire to, boxing's going to be popular. We could shut down our boxing rings, everything we do, Alicia and I, and the kids would take it to the streets and hurt themselves and hurt each other, or come bust out everybody's windows. So when you have angry people, people with a lot on their mind, boxing creates a clarity for a very, very short while. I trained just so that I could know what I'm talking about. And it creates clarity. And also boxing isn't fighting and punching. It's thinking. If you throw a right, then I need to go this way to come at you that way. And if you can use the strategy in the ring, you can use it outside of the ring.
Let me interject and appreciate the comments. We're not averse to wrestling or any other program that people have an interest in. We're not averse to looking at that. We have no plans to disband boxing. We have 2 Olympic hopefuls who are hopefully going to be in the Olympics next year. But that's what, just like we're talking communication, if wrestling is a need, heretofore, I haven't heard of anybody asking me, why don't we have wrestling program? So if that's a need, we can certainly explore it. Mary,
Okay.
I don't know if you just referenced wrestling per se, or if there's other things, Alderman. We'd be happy to look at any other programming if we can manage it.
Sure. Well, that's a good answer. Last question. So I think over time I have detected amongst my colleagues the recognition that Forest Park gets a lot of attention. Forest Park is a huge success, and Forest Park Forever, I think, is a huge success. And, you know, I think my neighborhood has benefited from that success, and we have a great ongoing partnership. But I think 20 years into that partnership, we can also maybe recognize that there's an opportunity for Forest Park Forever to maybe begin to look outside of Forest Park now that so much has been accomplished there. Or alternatively, think about, are there opportunities to sort of have a nonprofit that looks at strategic investments in the rest of the parks that are not Forest Park, because we've kind of built a great model there. So I guess the question is, how do you, can you envision our interaction with Forest Park Forever, encouraging them to look outside the boundaries of Forest Park 1, or should we start aiming for another similarly styled nonprofit that pays attention to all the other parks in the city?
I'd almost think the latter, of not saying that they would be their donors and their funders that fund the money that we get from them to do the capital projects. I would say any type of conservancy, whether it's individual park, individual neighborhood, or individual ward, would be a good start. But we could have those discussions with them and see how they feel about that. I mean, they're solely dedicated to Forest Park. Just like Central Park has a Central Park Conservancy, I don't think they venture out into other parks in New York City whatsoever, and I don't know of any conservancy in the country that would go beyond their dedicated specific park. So we could have, first of all, answer your question, we can have broach that with them. I have a peer there, and we can discuss that, obviously. But I would say, you know, instead of somebody always doing something for somebody else, if there's folks out there that are that committed to establishing a conservancy, that's the route I'd pursue.
All right.
Thanks.
The chairman is two-time city champion, state freestyle wrestling champion, junior Olympic medalist. I like wrestling, but I'm not expecting the city to fund that. And that was back when Northwest High School was the best in the state of Missouri.
The best in the state.
The other thing is, I can tell you that the Friends of Tower Grove Park, the Friends of Francis Park, I know Lafayette Square now has set up a Friends, and if the people in the community want to, you know, more input and buy-in in the community, they've all seemed to be starting to adopt that. I don't know if they're all not-for-profits. I know the one for Tower Grove Park, the Friends of Tower Grove Park, you know, is an actual 501c3, and it's just the people that live in our neighborhoods that go there, do the work, or donate money, and then they have events to try to raise money. It's not a lot of money, but it gets the community to buy in. Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did have just a quick question. On page 79,
Yes, sir.
under contractual services, it talks about communications. That's the first. What is that for?
Under the director's budget, the 8,000 communication,
Okay, what is that? What is that for?
radios.
Oh, radios, that's right.
Radios, telephones, cell
Cell
phones.
phones, radios.
We may have one issued city cell phone radios.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And then Alderman Moore had a question for Parks and Recreation, so he's going to just do a follow-up question. Alderman Moore, you have a question?
Speak to the recreation lady, please.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Evelyn, Miss Rice Peoples. The Tandy's Gym is utilized by quite a bit of grown-ups. And I think we need more children's programs at Tandy. And I got a complaint the other day, but it wasn't from a child, it was from a grown-up about the floor peeling, the recreation floor, they did it and it's peeling, and that is dark in there. So I would like to address those issues. I had something for all of them, but my chairman he places limits on what I say and what I should do. What's important for the 4th is not important to the 8th, but I have I had no idea that I was to continue to drill you about Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, because I had something for Parks, for Dan Skillman, and I also had something for Kincaid, but since we are on a time limit on these very important issues, that's all I have for you, Ms. Rice.
Okay, and I'm happy to meet with you.
Right, and that's what I would ask. If you've got specific questions for your ward, these individuals are here, and you can ask them whatever your specific needs are.
Mr. Chairman, you didn't tell me that prior to this meeting, so when you put Gary Best up here, I just asked him a lot of, Greg, you know I know you.
No, at our meeting last week, Alderman Moore, when I brought up the process that we were going to do, I did bring that up at that time. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Can I make an information request?
Yes, you can let Mr. Vaccaro know what you need.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
We'd be, Chairman and members of the committee, we'd be happy and pleased to respond to any specific questions that follow up, and we'll get that to you quickly.
I'm going to have some information requests that I'll send. I did take some email addresses down, but I'll send them if you can get them back to us as quick as possible.
Sure.
And have your people leave slow so I can ask my question relevant to the 8th Ward of Mr. Kincaid. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Mr.
day.
Best?
Yeah, in reference to the utilities, those were transferred over this year to facilities management.
But don't go anywhere.
We still got recorders.
I gotta go.
Recorder deeds on.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break here, 3-minute break. Everybody's 5-minute break.
Thank you. Look at me and he goes, 5 minutes.
Office, and if the representatives from the recorder's office could come up and go through your budget with us, I would appreciate it. It's going to be page 146 and 145, 146. Yeah, you would just come up to the right there. And if you could just kind of go over your budget and what you'd ask for, if you're satisfied with the budget, or what your needs are beyond the budget, what you're looking for.
Okay, good morning. My name is Georgie Simmons. I'm the Chief Deputy at the Recorder of Deeds. Apologizing about the time. Ms. Carpenter says she is sorry that she's not able to make it. She's on her way. But the issues that we have with our budget is the lack of employees. We asked for 43 for fiscal year 16. We only received 40. When we took over for Vital Records, say about 10 years ago, we started out with 48 staff. Since then, it has went down because of budget cuts. We're asking for at least 3 more. Our marriage license department, the revenue is going up due to the same-sex marriages. There's more birth certificates and death certificates that is being issued. Just the lack of not having people in the office due to vacations, sick reasons. Yesterday's, for instance, we only had 1 person in death records, had to pour somebody else from another department to work. Issues like that is what we're complaining about. Also, with the revenue, the budget, when it comes to technology, equipment, we never received any money to purchase any equipment for our office because of Vital Records, anything like that. And also, it states in the state statute that Our technology fund should not be used for any general revenue purposes. So we're asking if you all can help us with different equipments that we need to continue to cover vital records for the state. Mr. Bates, he could pretty much give more information on that.
I did make copies of the state statute that Georgie's talking about. And basically what the state statute says, do you need more copies?
Well, I'm just confused.
And it's really up here. The state statute basically says that the technology account should not be used to subsidize general revenue for the operation of the office. Now, with that in mind, we can use the technology account for preservation and technology as it relates to the land records. What we cannot use it for is items such as operating the vital records part of the office. So anything that we ask for, which we've repeatedly done over the years, has been denied. But with the scrutiny on the spending in the technology account, we cannot spend the money out of the technology account for vital records. So we need the money to come from somewhere to keep it operating.
Okay. So I guess my question is, how much funding are you looking for? And then I'm just going to open it up to questions. So, I mean, how far do you think, how much more money do you think you guys need in your budget to operate properly?
If are we talking about just?
Well, I would break it down to if just staff needs only, and then I would break it down to technology needs, because I don't know that, it's hard to find funding.
Right.
So
Technology-wise, you know, we're talking like printers and computers, just keeping those upgraded, and there's not that many. But you're looking at every year, if we ask for, you know, $10,000 or $15,000 to keep this stuff up, then that kind of money is what we're looking for just to maintain vital records. Now, if we're looking at the positions as far as personnel goes, we're asking for, you know, entry-level clerk positions. So if your starting salary is what?
28
to 30,000 plus whatever I don't know the calculations behind the, you know, the retirement and stuff. So you figure, what, roughly 80,000 if we went with 2 clerks.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Alderman Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I think your question was, what was the dollar amount that you were looking for?
Yeah, it seemed like they're saying overall around 90,000, 80 for 2 positions, and they're looking for 10 to 15 for updating some printers and stuff.
And so the 2 positions will get you what you need? I thought you said it was 5 that was not?
No, we asked for 43.
Yes, for
They only
43.
gave us 40. If we can get 2, that would help out a whole lot. That's fair.
2 additional
Yes,
individuals?
yes.
So, not the additional 3?
What we asked for 3, we would like to get 3, but if you just push for 2,
That would be enough to handle what your
Yes,
concerns
yes.
are and what your needs are?
Yes.
Okay. And those 2 positions would be what?
Clerk warrants.
Both would be clerk 1?
Yes.
And their role, what do they do as clerk 1s?
Clerk ones, customer service, waiting on pricing deeds. They might be able to work in marriage license, death records.
And what is their salary for clerk 1?
Starting salary for clerk 1 is $28,418.
Okay.
That's just the salary.
Yeah, do you know what it'd be with the fringe?
No,
You don't? Okay.
no.
Okay, that completes me, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Moore. Alderman Moore.
I hear you. What is internal service on page 145, and internal service gasoline and diesel fuel? What are we using
Should we, diesel, we still using diesel fuel?
Well, for the gasoline, I guess that's just the title that it gives. The gasoline pretty much pertains to Ms. Carpenter for her car issues, gas, if she needs to be reimbursed or whatever like that. That is what that is for.
And transportation? Oh, is
The
that for-
$1,000 for transportation is pretty much like if we need to transfer some documents to our underground storage, that would pay for that. So those are two different things.
And what is membership fees?
Membership fees pretty much pertains to our membership with the Recorder Association and ACREOC. And PREA is different organizations that the recorder deeds. Also, the membership fees cover any bond issues for our office, notaries, all of that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So we drop down, Alderwoman Murphy.
Yes, just a quick question.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I didn't see you sitting there when I looked over.
Well, he was
Let me
up.
go back over the.
They are.
Let me
That's
go
okay.
back to Alderman Carter. I did not see you. You left your chair. You left your chair. So it'd be Alderman Carter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So you asked for, so you needed extra money for technology, computers, and things of that sort, right?
Yes.
And so if I'm looking at this right, it says that under materials and supplies, that they gave you, well, that we gave you 24,000 FY14, 38,000 in FY15, and this year they're giving 35,000 out of the 40,000 that was requested. So is it an additional amount of printers and stuff that you guys need?
Yes.
So 40,000 isn't enough?
In that particular account,
This one. 235.
we were basing it on what we spent this year and then any cost that may be associated with, a cost of living from where we purchase equipment. And that's where we went from the 38,000 up to the 40. The equipment that I was originally talking about was listed under the 5435. We had it listed under non-capital equipment. And that was a total of of a lot of different things, but that whole amount under 5435 was denied.
And is
The
it
109,000.
Correct.
That's a lot of money for printers and,
Well, that particular amount there was not just printers. That were things to
servers.
maintain,
Is it like a
servers
breakdown
that
of
are
exactly what
reaching
it-
end
what
of
it is?
life. And, it's something that, as an IT person, I try to plan for.
okay.
However, some of that stuff we can pay for out of technology, but some of it we cannot.
Okay, so what's offered under the contractual and other services under the 5635 office and computer? Because I see that,
5635 pretty much goes for our payment for vital records, anything that we're paying for, RICO services for our computers, for our printers, all of that is coming out of there.
okay.
Our biggest cost out of that is actually our land records software.
Okay,
The licensing requirements for that and support for that software is relatively expensive. And that's where a big chunk of that actually comes from.
okay. I have the statute here, and so how much is currently in the tech fund? Or is there anything in the tech fund, technology fund?
Yes.
How much is in there?
There's pretty close to
Roughly, probably
300.
200 to 300,000.
And so that could be used specifically for
That
what,
can be
extra
used-
printers, servers? That can subset in some of the costs.
That pertain to the preservation of land records recording and any archival purposes, the microfilming, we can spend the money on that, but we cannot spend it on printers for our vital records. Anything pertaining to vital records, we're not supposed to spend that money on.
Okay. And my last question, who is the deputy recorder?
I am.
Okay. All right. I was just asking because I didn't know that we had a deputy recorder. So, thanks.
I received this position September the 15th of last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, now Alderwoman Murphy.
Yeah, no, I just had a brief question. How many per performance employees does the Recorder of Deeds have now?
We have 3 now that is being paid out of the technology account. They're
Okay.
working on a special project for a marriage license.
Right. And then you would like, if you receive these extra 2 or 3
They were
full-time,
full-time employees.
they would become that? Okay,
Yes.
that was going to be my question.
Yes.
Okay, so they're already there being trained and moving along? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No. Okay, Alderman Ogilvy.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I know Alderman Carter has a follow-up question, and then we'll just go back across in case someone else, in fact, let me just do it in order. Does anyone else have a follow-up question?
I don't have any of them.
It's all yours.
How much do we receive, I guess, on an annual basis in terms of marriage licenses and, because that stuff costs, right? How much does the office receive back out of that?
The revenue that we get every year on that?
Yeah.
Go offhand.
Or do you keep track of
How many copies, how many licenses
Yeah, like,
we
yeah.
issue. We do keep track of that, but I do not have the numbers right now. We keep track of all of the marriage license, all of the documents that's been recorded, certified copies of marriage license that's coming in. If anybody doing any type of archives information, we keep copies of that also.
Have we ever thought about, I'm sorry, have we ever thought about upping the cost of the marriage license or copies or
That would
things of that
have to
sort?
go through the state.
Ooh, I'm sorry.
It's, really, all we're doing is accessing the state system and acting as a copy center. Every time we look up a birth record, and every time we hit a function key on their system, we pay the state money.
And that's for vital records, but for marriage license, that would have to go through the state. That
So
would
are
have
we,
to be.
so are we all on the same scale as other counties, I guess?
Yes. St. Louis County is $48.
And
I
ours is
believe.
$48.
Yes, ours are $48. Jefferson County, I believe, is $51.
Really?
But overall, it starts from 47 to 51.
Well, how can we get to 51? We'll just have to,
We have pretty much met our match. We're up to what we said we can pretty much
but we can change that, right, with the state?
with the state.
How much more would 51, how much more would that
Be doing
difference get
48,
us?
$3 more.
How much more would you generate?
Okay.
Yeah, this is all they have.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
If that's all the questions, thank you guys for coming, and we'll call it a day and close the meeting. And we'll see you all tomorrow night at the, we'll see you all tomorrow night at Carpenter's Branch Library. I would encourage you to tell your people in the ward it should be a pretty good open meeting.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.